I can stand here and talk about it, but we need the president to do it. I mean, he is the leader of our country.
Getting back to the Affordable Care Act, I'm very glad to hear that you see the major problem in that it doesn't address the cost of health care. As a matter of fact, the health care premiums have been projected to go up anywhere from 25% to 100% when it finally in 2014. So, and I totally agree with you. What would you propose?
You say you don't agree with me or you do agree?
Pardon?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What would you propose short, short of repealing it, or an amendment or something, because it's not going to work the way it's rolling out, and it's not even rolling out properly.
At a minimum, I'd say, let's slow down, right? I mean, let's not race ahead if we all think costs are going to go up. You have an extra 25 or 40% in your pocket that you can pay? Great. I don't know many Americans that do. That said, we have to fix healthcare, right? We have to get this right. It's 18% of our economy. We have to get this right and invest in healthcare. Now, the only way you can really do that is by looking at the health insurance industry and making premiums more affordable, making healthcare less about profiting on your lives, but more about taking care of the patients. I mean, that's why I went to medical school, is for this to be about patient care. So that's the conversation I have with every one of the doctor groups that come through Washington, D.C. We need to be patient advocates as doctors. We need to talk about what happens in our exam room, what happens if this benefit's cut, if that benefit's cut, how it's going to translate into patient care. And we can do this, right? I mean, we're already, we already pay far and away more than any other nation on the planet. Where's the money going? Right? I mean, that's the question that we should be asking. Where's the money going? And then we can, that's the question I would ask your government, is where's the money going? That's the question I'm asking, is if 18% of our economy, and the next closest economy is 11 or 12% of their GDP, we're spending 18% of our GDP. Where's the money going? Right? I mean, we're all paying into it, whether it's through our tax structure, whether it's through our premiums, whether it's our employers. Let's ask that question.
Our economy is improving slowly, very slowly, and it can't really improve unless the improvement comes from the job market and the housing market. In the housing market, the cooperation has to come from the bank. Those fat cats, to borrow President Obama's words, most intelligent president who ever had in this country. I am not telling the best president, most intelligent president. But even then he made a mistake. I think the banks today are bigger than they were at that time when government helped them out. And they are not doing anything. They will not reduce your premium. You can negotiate with them that you are taking interest 0.5% and you are charging me 4.5%. What can be done? Why Congress does not have a oversight committee to look after them?
So there are a whole bunch of questions in there. Number one, I think the thing that we should be focused on in Washington, D.C. is creating jobs. I don't think there's anything more important than creating jobs, getting people working again. And not just any job, middle-class jobs. Jobs that allow you to go out, and they exist. But some of it is when I'm training our kids to fill those jobs. Some of it is the economy change. So that has to be our number one focus. In this region, I agree with you that we were pretty hard hit by the housing crisis. A lot of folks in our community are still underwater and struggling. And a lot of people have actually done, they continue to, they're honorable, they continue to pay all their mortgage payments, and they're up to date on everything. And they want to renegotiate their mortgage because interest rates have come down. They're not asking for anyone to forgive their debt. They just want to renegotiate it, and the banks aren't letting them do it. And that's a problem, isn't it? And I heard that story over and over again. We have talked about what we can do to compel the banks to sit down. Now, part of the problem is the banks are so large. You know, what they do is they give you a loan, you take out that loan, they package it up, they sell it off to someone else, it gets packaged up. Do you even know who owns your mortgage? I mean, it's slice and dice. I grew up in an era when you had community banks. You know, I'd walk into the bank with my mom. They always had those horrible tasting candies, those butterscotch candies, but I'd still grab them. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? You know those butterscotch candies as well. And my mom knew the banker, right? And the way the bank made their money is they made a loan to you. And you paid that loan back with interest. And they held on to that loan. So if you ran into trouble, you could go in there and have a conversation with the banker, or if you were going to be a little bit late, because you knew you had a relationship. I think that's what we're losing right now, is that sense of community, whether it's those community banks. I talked about public school. You know, my elementary school was a community elementary school, where when we had the carnival annually, it was not just the kids that went, it was the entire community coming out. And it is a little bit of that, you know, moving things back towards the community. Right now,
But
everything's centralized in what, we've got to break that up. So answering your question, what can we do? The problem is, it's the same problem that we see in healthcare. It's these special interests, right? These lobbyists. So I don't know the answer to this question, but I bet the Wall Street banks spend millions of dollars on lobbyists, right? They come in and then they, you know, are. You guys lived through this last election with all this outside money in campaigns, and so we've got to fix that, right? Same thing in healthcare. Why is it that, you know, costs are still going up and there's very little insurance? Well, insurance companies probably spend millions of dollars on lobbyists. So how do we? But there's no way to clean up Washington D.C. without cleaning up the banks. So
Thank you.
So going back to the young man's question, you said that there's some things that you like about the bill, some things that you don't like about the bill. In order for us to get a yes vote from you, what would you include in that bill?
I would vote yes if the Senate proposal comes out. I'd vote yes. So, right, so immigration. Yeah, on immigration. So I'd vote yes on the Senate bill if it came to the House.
Hello, my name is Anna. Just to kind of go off on what he said, would you be in support of keeping families together in the comprehensive immigration reform? Because that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I would like to see stronger family reunification, and I'm on the record talking about that. I think, you know, one of our core values as Americans is we value the strength of families and so forth.
As it's my understanding in the immigration bill that there has to be a 90% accountability for border security in order for there to actually be a path to citizenship. So what do you think about that aspect of it? Do you think that's realistic, that it's actually a quantifiable aspect of the bill?
Well, they haven't been able to quantify what 90% is right now, so I think that's more political than anything else. I do think we have to have secure borders. We do, given the threats and so forth, we want to have secure borders. That they should define what that 90% actually means.
You had mentioned earlier, you talked about the Veteran Administration and where your office is involved and whatnot. I heard him earlier say that he's been waiting since 1952 for benefits. I'm a disabled veteran myself. My question is, you said that you work for us. I agree. General Shinseki, since he's taken over, I started last week, I think it's a 2,000% backlog going backwards. If he worked in the private sector, he would have been fired a long time ago. As a public employee, as a government appointed official, would you support his resignation? Also, too, what advice would you give for disabled vets as far as using Congress to aid their case?
I think it's shameful that the backlog is as it is. You know, I talked to my district staff, and they, how long is the backlog
It's
right now?
currently between 18 and 24 months in most cases. Before you got here, I was saying that we
we have had some success before that, but the average is 18 to 24 months.
Isn't that a disgrace?
One thing I,
I think we all, that's disgraceful, right? I think the administration knows it, but it hasn't gotten any better. I would, again, I'll do whatever I can, but it's gonna start from the top, right? That's where they control the resources. I would do a march on Washington, right? I mean, I would just bring the pressure. I think you get a lot of congressmen and women out there, because it's not just our district. I think, I talked to Jerry McNerney, I talked to Mike Thompson. It's every district in this country that is backlog. We can rush into a war, to fight a war, but when our men and women come back, we can't fix this problem. Right? I mean, it's shameful, it's disgraceful, right? I mean, let's put the same resources into fixing this. So, I agree with you.
but one thing I was gonna ask too, is you had mentioned going to Congress for 100 days. There's a lot of things that happen in Congress and DC we don't see on the back end. What has been the most disappointing thing that you've experienced in 100 days?
There are. I didn't say that. The question was, what is the most disappointing thing? There are people who love this country as much as I do, men and women serving. We can sit down, we can have a rational conversation, we can agree on what we want to move forward. Everything's bottlenecked at the top in leadership. And I'll blame both parties here, because the party that the leadership
It's
that's
the
in
same
charge.
party.
Well, the leadership that's in charge wants to hold on to power,
Mm-hmm.
and the folks that are leadership that is out of power wants to get power back. And until we sit here and say, this isn't about me being in power or you being in power, this is about serving our country, doing what's right for our country. Until we can get, and the rank and file men, women who are there serving, like myself, again, it's the leadership that has to change. I mean, that is where the bottleneck happens. That is, we can come up with the best piece of legislation that says, here's how we fix the VA backlog and put that forward. Unless the leadership lets us bring it to the floor, it's not going anywhere.
Do you include Obama in that leadership problem?
Well, yeah, so look, if we look at our history, the presidents and Congress have always disagreed in divided government, but they've been able to set aside those disagreements. Look at Tip O'Neill and President Reagan. I'm pretty sure they viewed the world from different perspectives. They still were able to come together and address debt and deficits and strengthen Social Security and end the Cold War. Newt Gingrich tried to impeach President Bill Clinton. They still were able to come together and come up with a budget that not only balanced our budget, it created a budget surplus. We've got to get back to this context where it is not about my party or your party, or how do I get elected or reelected, where it's about how do I just serve the country? How do we do people's business? And the best way to get reelected then is to actually just go out and do your job. Right? I mean, we have to get back to this context of service again. Right?
So you would say the most disappointing thing has just been the bottleneck?
Well, there are well-intentioned individuals. So the bottleneck is caused by politics, right? It's that politics of winning and losing elections, and that is the problem right now, I think. So, I'll probably take one more question.
Okay, I would like to, what can I, as a citizen who's retired, would help?
You're already doing the first thing. You're here today. And I'm going to guess there are some folks in this room who didn't vote for me. And I'm not going to ask you guys if you voted for me or didn't vote for me. But you're here. You're engaged. And, so let me, for lack of a better description, let me talk about the Tea Party for a second. Because people will sometimes come and yell at me and get mad at me. But folks that, this isn't about people agreeing with me. So when folks come and, I admire that. Because you know why? They're actually engaged. They care enough that they're out there yelling and trying to make a change. All of you are here in this room. You know, whether you're on the right or the left, at least you're showing up. That's the first step to taking our country back. That's the first step to seeing the change. I worry about all the folks that are at home that are just checking out. That's who I worry about. Not the people who show up ready to fight. Not the people who show up wanting to see something different. We're not always going to agree on everything, nor should we, because the best ideas are going to come from, you know, that creative tension. But if we are passionate enough to show up, passionate enough to go march, passionate enough to say, we want to see something different, that's where it's going to come from. So you're doing the first thing by showing up. Now, we can do more. We can, if we want to take on the, and we have a lot of veterans that live here. I think we do need to rally the veterans, right? I do think we need to make sure the public knows how shameful this is. And I think, you know, I could probably talk to all of my colleagues, and they would all agree that this is the #1 constituents issue that we see. Let's fix it. This is a national emergency.
Again, you're compartmentalizing. We're all citizens of the United States.
Right.
Some of us are veterans, some of us are retired, some of us are just growing up, and some of us are just kind of in between.
But we're all in this together.
I've been retired for 28 years. Regular kid, actually. Of those 28 years, I put in 20 years with Habitat for Humanity as a volunteer. I put in 22 years with AARP as a volunteer. These years, AARP comes from January to April 15th. Habitat keeps going on. But, you see, I still don't, I hear I've done something because I showed up. I would like to do anything. I think our veterans need it. I think our country needs it. And we've got the assets sitting out there on their assets that are capable, qualified individuals that have gone through a lifetime of earning a living. I don't care if it's shuffling papers or inputting to a computer or whatever. There's got to be some organization. When I was working, the problem was to stop the problem from continuing before you can clean up the mess behind. So we would change our policies so that the problem didn't come forward on us. And then concentrate our efforts on cleaning up the mess that we left behind. And it's been going on for years.
So, I was visiting with a group of clergy earlier this week, and they asked the same question. They said, what can we do? And short of turning around Washington, D.C., which I think we can do over time, I think the bigger question is what can we do here in our own community, in our own district to turn this around, kind of take our community back and lead by example. And I don't have the answer to that, but I think it's the right question. And nor do I think it's appropriate for me to come to the community and say, here's what we need to do. Because that's still top down. I think it's got to come bottom up. I think we have to figure out, okay, what is the one thing or two things that we want to do as a community to come together and turn this around. And maybe it is around the veterans in our community. Maybe it is around the school. Maybe it is, but if I can give you my opinion after thinking about it, but that necessarily isn't, we've got to figure out how we engage folks so we come up with a collective opinion.
We purchased the old community center this past week, and it has a meeting room in it that's approximately 30 by 60. And we would be glad to work with any of you that want to hold meetings to work together on any of these problems that we have. And also, I think you together, how good a job Tommy's doing, there'll be an awfully hard fight to wipe him out. And there'll be a lot of money coming in to do that in this next election. And I don't care which party you're in, if you want a good man, I recommend that you back him.
Thank you.
Can I say one thing? I will be one of the ones here to say I do not vote for you. I was impressed with what you said today, and God willing you mean it. I became active in politics in 1980 when I helped one of President Reagan's subcommittees that issued the National Report, A Nation at Risk. And what that was about was the condition of our schools. And I will tell you that they're worse than that report said. That's not what I wanted to say. What I wanted to say was, if you feel in your heart and what you expressed, and you have colleagues in Washington that are not in leadership, why do you not get together as a group, go to the steps of the Capitol, and tell the American people what these leaders are doing to our country?
Nobody will listen. Well, so in our own way, we're doing that, though, right? We're up to 62 members.
You need to go on national television and tell the people what these people are doing to our country, our future, our economy. I talk politics 24/7 and have for 33 years. I'm telling you, I've met no one that wants Obamacare. I've met no one that wants the government.
I do too.
I don't want my doctor putting all my personal information in a database that can get hacked like the government, putting me in front of a death panel. I don't want there are death panels in Obamacare. We're going to decide who's going to get what, and they're putting limits on mammograms, PSA testing. I mean, you know this.
I don't think any of us know that.
So where I was,
A lot of people do not want Obamacare. It was rammed down our throats.
I get that the country's split. At least 50% of the people don't want the Affordable Care Act. 50% of the people are in support of the Affordable Care Act.
I think
A lot of us, and I'm a healthcare expert, I'm worried about the impact of the Affordable Care Act. That said, I know we have to do something about healthcare.
I have doctors in my family.
Right, absolutely. So we have to do something about the cost of healthcare. That's the reality. There's no way for us to address the debt and the deficit. There's no way for us to build a better future for the next generation without taking on the cost of healthcare.
But this did not fix the cost of healthcare.
Again, I don't actually disagree, but right, where I started was my concern with the Affordable Care Act is it doesn't
And I
address the
respect
cost
that.
of healthcare. And I've said that, said that as recently as this past week to the editorial board. I catch a lot of flack for that, by the way, within my own party. We have to address the cost of healthcare, and we have to make this about patients. And what's missing is our ability to have an adult-like conversation in Washington, D.C. to say, okay, we're a split country on this. Let's figure this out. Let's sit down and let's talk about it. Let's negotiate. I'm going to have to, I'm already a little bit over.
There has to be a last word on that, because the opposite thing of that one should be true too. I'm a physician, but I can tell you my own income will be cut almost by half by Obamacare. I still think it is the best thing that can happen to people in this country. I lived in England. I did 11 years to 14 years in England. And all my colleagues run down NHS as if people are going there and dying like fleas. They don't. England have an excellent health system,
A lot of
even
people
today.
disagree with you, sir.
Yeah, but you are respectfully disagree. I am respectfully disagreeing because it is my personal thing that will be hard. But I still, for people like you who are non-doctor, there's nothing that can happen better than that, and take it from me.
So let me leave it with this, because this is when I first started doing the economic planning corners, and this is now our 11th. We've done a number of small business roundtables, and these are all open events. What I said is how I wanted to start with my leadership style was go out there and listen and hear what was going on in the community that I represent. The next phase of this, probably in the summertime, is doing a series of town halls on those areas and those issues that we've heard. And maybe that's where the idea of how we move forward. So clearly we hear a lot about healthcare. We hear a lot about jobs. We hear a lot about housing. And I think what we probably will do in this next phase is do themed town halls where we're actually bringing in some experts as well and talking about it. And then, what I hope is by the fall, we can actually start saying, here's what we want to do as a community to start moving forward. Because again, to just talk about things for the next 5 or 6 years isn't going to solve anything. So let's actually, think this through. We're hearing things. Let's then start discussing what we want to do, and then let's move to action. And again, I'm glad that you guys are here. I'm glad that this room spans the spectrum of opinion, because that is where the best ideas are going to come from. Thank you.